the Women Changing the World podcast, a podcast on a mission to bring you some of the most amazing women I know who are doing incredible things to generally make the world a better place. From corporate sustainability to straight up magic and everything in between, you'll meet the real life humans who are birthing the new. I'm your host, Liz Best, and I'm here to amplify the stories and voices of women who are changing the world. Hello, and welcome to a very special solo episode of the Women Changing the World podcast. My name is Liz Best, and I'm your host and impact reporting expert. And today I wanted to take the time to walk you through how and why you may want to create your own personal impact report. So before I jump in, I guess a little bit of background on me. I have been working in the sustainability / corporate responsibility / ESG reporting space for more than a decade now. And for anyone who's not familiar, many companies, including Fortune 500 companies, privately held companies, B corporations, really all sorts of different organizations put out different reports, often on an annual basis, not always on an annual basis, to capture the impact they've had over the past year. And really, this space has been honestly, I mean, the Wild West is an overstatement, but there's really kind of a wide range of what companies and organizations put in these reports every year. There is some work underway to regulate and streamline the disclosures that companies provide. But again, this is something I've been helping companies do, since back in 2011 when I first started at Qualcomm, all the way up through present day. I work with a number of different companies on their annual reports. And it was probably about 2018 that I was first introduced to the concept of a personal impact report. And if you're thinking, what the heck is a personal impact report? You're not alone. Don't worry. I will explain it. So I was reading an article, I believe in the Muse, and someone was saying that they had created their own personal annual report to really showcase the cool things that happened in their life and their business over the past year. And this person was, I'm not sure if they were job searching or independently employed or what the exact motivation was, but they're like, I just really wanted to capture all the stuff that happened in the previous year. It's a great snapshot for me to share with potential clients. It's a great snapshot for me to share with potential future employers. And it just made me really happy to take the time to reflect and look back on what even happened last year. And so that it really stuck with me. I mean, it was a really cool way, I thought, to kind of memorialize a year. And so in 2018, I had a big year on a number of fronts. There was some really cool stuff that happened. I got to perform stand-up comedy at Cobb's Comedy Club in San Francisco and the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Got to work with some total dream clients in my consulting work and went to some cool places. And so I decided to enlist my friend, Sunny Choi, who's an incredible designer, to see if she would help me create my own first personal annual impact report. And the result was so much fun. It was just a single page kind of scroll. I think it was a JPEG that brought in pictures and icons and just captured what had happened for me in 2018. And I took a deep breath and decided to go ahead and share it on LinkedIn. I think that was the only place I shared it back then. And the response blew me away. People just said the nicest things. They were so seemingly appreciative of the peak inside my life and at my year. Yeah, it was a really fun way to take what had been, I'm sure at the time I thought it was a wild year, although I had no idea what the future held. But to take that year and just kind of commemorate it. So this is something I've been doing every year since. So 2018, 2019, 2020, and then most recently 2021. And I've never shared how I do it until this year. But this year in the Girls Club Mastermind, one of the workshops that we had was a personal impact reporting workshop. And I walked the mastermind participants and some of their friends through some of the questions that I ask myself to create a personal impact report. And I thought it might be fun to share some of them here on the podcast, as well as kind of my approach to this. So let's see, at a high level, I mean, really, this is something that you're doing for fun. If you were doing it for your organization, I would have a very different perspective on what material or what is material and what you need to disclose. But since you're doing this for yourself for fun for your business, I mean, I do think thinking like what's most meaningful is an important question to ask as you undertake this exercise. But really, it's just a cool way, I think, to capture the wins, the highs, the firsts, the recognition that you've experienced in the past year. And so that's really the lens through which I approach this is like, let's take a moment to celebrate all of the highest highs because I do believe that what you focus on expands. And I think celebrating all of these small or large wins creates space for you to invite more in. So, in that vein, some of the reflection questions that I encourage people to ask if you want to create your own personal impact report, grab a pen. Um, First question is, what are you celebrating from the past year? What caused you to pop a bottle? What caused you to raise a glass? It obviously is not exclusively drinking related, but what are some of the moments that you really are celebrating from the past year? From there, it's also helpful to look back at like when you started the year, and I'm going to use 2021 here. I know we're already like creeping into 2022. It's just the most recent year. So if that's not the time that you're listening to this, feel free to replace it with the right year. But what were your goals or intentions for that year? So did you have any resolutions? How did they go? Did you have any intentions, any words, anything specific that you were calling in for the year? How did it go? What did that intention result in? It's okay if it was nothing, but I invite you to think back on anything that you had set out to do this year that you, in fact, accomplished. And then thinking in that vein, what were some of the big milestones of the past year? What were some of your biggest accomplishments? Um, any big notable birthdays, anniversaries, all sorts of milestones like work anniversaries. Maybe you hit your first 5-figure month, your first 6-figure year in your business. Maybe you met your savings goal. Um, or maybe you won a trophy for your intramural soccer team, like whatever it was. What were some of your biggest accomplishments from the past year? And then as you think about those accomplishments, I also invite you to think about who you accomplished them with, who you spent time with, who you celebrated with over the past 12 months. And this is a big one because I think often we don't do most of these things alone. Yes, it is totally okay, permission granted, for you to brag about something that you accomplished in collaboration with other people. I'm here for it. But who were the other people in your life? Who was part of this journey? Who do you most want to thank for the role they played in the magic that you created in the past year? Who, in the words of impact reporting, were your key stakeholders as you look back at the year? And admittedly, this question is less fun in a pandemic world, but in a non-pandemic world, in a post-pandemic world, in a pre-pandemic world, my favorite question was, where did I go in the past year? And I think when you think about it from a post-COVID perspective, yes, where did you physically go? Where did you travel? Where did you vacation? Did you move? But also, like, where did you go on the internet? Where did you go locally? Where did you spend your time? Um, is there anything new that you did for the first time in the past year? For I think most of my reports, I've included something that I've done in the past year that I had never done before. So if there's anything that you did in the past year that you've never done before, what was it? And then how did you give back in the past year? What did you do to be of service? Where did you donate time, money? What causes or organizations were closest to your heart in the past year? What did you do to generally give back? And what did you learn in the past year? And this can really be like a specific thing. Maybe you went back to school, maybe you got your coaching certification, maybe you got your project management certification. But maybe you just like learned a really important life lesson. It's not a just, maybe you learned a really important life lesson. Maybe you adopted a new mantra that's totally changed your perspective on everything. What did you learn in the past year? What were some of the biggest, like most meaningful shifts that you made internally in the past year? And then this is where it gets a little more report like, but what are some of the numbers or the metrics that best reflect where you spent your time and energy over the past year? So what are the key like bullets, key figures, key like data points that really point to what you accomplished in the past year? And I'll give you an example here. So, for me, it's like how many one on one clients did I serve? How many women did I welcome to group programs and masterminds? How many people joined the workshops that I led? What partnerships did I undertake in the past year? How much did my revenue grow in the past year? How much financial abundance did my clients welcome in the past year? What are some of the numbers? I think, qualitative and quantitative points are important for something like this if they speak to you. So, are there any numbers that are meaningful to you and reflect where you spent your energy? And then how were you recognized in the past year? Are there any awards? Were you interviewed on a podcast? Did you get featured in the press? Did you receive really cool and meaningful compliments? Were you given a massive bonus? Did you get a shout out in a team meeting? What were some of the moments of recognition? Who appreciated you publicly, whatever that means to you in the past year? Are there any like little clippings or snippets or highlights that have to do with recognition that you would be remiss not to capture in your annual report? And then I think this is where, especially when I'm doing these reports for companies, like you get a lot of bonus points. And this is honestly something I still need to integrate into my own personal annual report. But what are your goals and priorities moving forward? Are there any goals that you want to hold out publicly and commit to so people who care can hold you accountable? And maybe this is something you include in your report. Maybe it's something you just keep for yourself. But now that you've taken a moment to look back at everything that happened in the past year or so, what do you want more of? What do you want to prioritize? What did you get maybe close to your goal on, and in the next year you want to like totally kill it on that goal? Yeah, just what are some of the things that are important to you as you move forward into the next year, the next season? And then the last question, and this is, I think, especially helpful if you're thinking about creating like some sort of a post or infographic. Um, what are the 10 or so bullets? And 10 is like a super arbitrary number. It could be more or less. But what best sums up your impact in the past year? Um, and this is really the part that I would encourage you, if you do this exercise as you get here, to then think about like, who cares? and and I mean that in a loving way. Like, who would care about these things that you did to make an impact over the past year? I have seen people share these in bullet format to rave reviews on LinkedIn, on Instagram, in email newsletters. And I also created a impact reporting template if you want to take your 10 bullets and turn them into something beautiful, either for like in a PDF format or on social media. But yeah, I think this can be a really fun exercise to brag a little, to take up some space, but also to look back at the past year. I think we've all been living in like, I mean, everything's so weird. We've been living through such a weird time. But I can say when we had this workshop in the Girls Club Mastermind, I think almost all of us went into the workshop thinking that 2021 was like kind of bizarre, sort of a wash. And then when people actually went through the process of answering these questions for themselves and putting pen to paper, they realized that actually they accomplished some totally bucket list things, some once in a lifetime trips, some like super meaningful impact. I'm talking like pounds of plastic removed from the environment impact, like greenhouse gas emissions reduction impact, really moving the needle for massive organizations' impact. And so I would encourage you, whether it's in your performance review or on social media or with your clients or with your family, with your partner, to take the time to share what you come up with and take up a little space, because you just might inspire them to reflect on the past year and celebrate their wins right alongside you. So that's what I got in terms of creating a personal impact report. Again, my name is Liz. If you've been listening to the podcast, you probably know that. I've been doing this for more than a decade, and I do think the personal impact report is it's such a nice touch. It's such a cool thing to have for yourself. It's such a fun thing to share with the world, if and as appropriate. And if this is something that you want to do for yourself, I did create a personal impact reporting mini course that actually has a workbook that walks you through all these questions, as well as a guided meditation for you to really get into reflection and impact reporting mode, and templates in Canva that you can use to create your own personal impact report. They're super customizable, but a really fun way to make your impact report beautiful. And I included a template if you'd like to post your impact report or your impact report bullets somewhere. So that's something that you want. Head over to my website. It's elizabethbest.com. That's ELISABETHBEST.com /impact reporting. And you can get all the info there to grab the course. But I hope this has been helpful and hopefully has inspired you to maybe take a minute, or 10 or 20 or 60 and think about the impact that you made in the past year, because I would be willing to bet that it was bigger than you might think. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have you been meaning to expand the circle of amazing women in your network, but it's been hard to find the time to connect consistently? Are you a member of a small team creating a big impact and you wish you had additional brains to tap to think strategically about what's next? Are you craving personal growth, community, and magic in your personal and professional life, but feeling like you don't know where to find it? Imagine if you had dedicated time and space to build relationships with other badass women in impact. Imagine if you had access to a brain trust of rock stars who are ready to help you solve any challenge, personal or professional. Imagine if you had an extended team of like-minded women cheering you on, hyping you up, opening doors, and helping you make your wildest dreams come true. Imagine if you took the time to really invest in yourself and be intentional about the impact you are here to make. The Girls Club Mastermind is a 5-month mastermind for women who are changing the world. It is an intimate community of powerful women who are dedicated to lifting each other up. They are your hype women, your cheerleaders, and your extended team. The next round of the Girls Club Mastermind kicks off in April, and you don't want to miss it. Head to elizabethbest.com /girlsclub. That's ELISABETHBEST.com /girlsclub to learn more and apply today. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Women Changing the World podcast. Please rate and review the Women Changing the World podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts, and don't forget to subscribe for future episodes. You can find me on Instagram. My handle is liz.best, that's lis.best, or you can find me on LinkedIn by searching my name, Liz Best. Join my mail list by visiting elizabethbest.com /monthly meditation, and you'll receive all the latest updates on events, retreats, and opportunities to work with me, plus a monthly love note from my heart to your inbox. I am so excited to keep in touch, and I'll see you in the next episode.